What happened between Mercedes and Hamilton changes everything. So we're going to be going through that and 3 other stories in today's video. So make sure to like this video, and if you want more Mercedes news content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that red button down below. The first story, Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes life tipped for change with exclusion from conversations. 1996, F1 world champion Damon Hill believes the process of isolating Lewis Hamilton from technical conversations for next year will have now started. Hamilton is into his final months as a Mercedes F1 driver, with the 7-time F1 world champion taking on a new challenge with Ferrari in 2025, bringing to an end the most successful driver-team partnership in the sport's history. Appearing on the F1 Nation podcast, ahead of the Dutch Grand Prix, and the resumption of action for the second half of the 2024 championship, Hill said it's very likely that the process of icing Lewis Hamilton out of meetings and discussions regarding the development direction of next year's W16 will have begun. It'll be an unusual dynamic for Hamilton to adjust to, given how embedded he's been within the squad since joining the Brackley-based team at the end of 2012, but Hill said he doubts Hamilton will be made to feel uncomfortable or will be treated in any way unfairly in his final months. "I think it's got to, hasn't it?" he replied, when asked if the process is likely to make his life harder in his final 10 races. I mean, he's got to be excluded from conversations to do with whatever's coming for next year. They don't want to show many insights that he might take to Ferrari, particularly. So it may be he's deprived of a little bit more information than he's liked in the past. But they are an honorable team, Mercedes, and I think Toto is an honorable person. I think that he'll always be treated fairly within a team, but there's only so much you can give away, isn't there, when you've got a guy leaving? Despite how the process of gardening leave applies to technical and leadership staff, due to the knowledge they possess becoming less relevant after a while away from any team. Hill laughed as he pointed out most drivers wouldn't have a level of technical knowledge that would be directly useful for their new teams to implement in any meaningful way. It's not like a technical person who, when they leave a team, have to go on gardening leave, and they can't join a team until the following year or something like that, he said. The drivers can go from day one to the next team, the moment their contract has expired. The trouble is, drivers are not necessarily privy to all of the technical things that happen, and, in any case, they probably wouldn't understand because it's highly technical, and you only have to speak to some of the engineers in the sport to know that there is a need to understand very complex technical things, which very few drivers can do. You would know what they're playing with, yeah, and you'd know what sort of directions. Lewis Hamilton has issued a strong statement regarding his Formula One rivals, including his replacement at Mercedes for 2025. The 7-time world champion will end his long association with the German manufacturer when he begins racing for Ferrari next year. For some time, it looked as though the partnership which has defined modern F1 would end on a melancholy note, but a dramatic Silverstone comeback victory followed by another win in Belgium means Hamilton will be leaving on a high. The rediscovery of the winning feeling has fired up the now 105-time race winner, who has given a strong verdict on beating his rivals. Hamilton's replacement at the Silver Arrows is still to be announced, some 6 months after the Brit's departure was confirmed. The 39-year-old has raced across multiple generations in F1, from legendary names such as Michael Schumacher to the next crop of stars, including recent first-time winner Oscar Piastri. One youngster who is reportedly the favorite to replace Hamilton is 17-year-old Kimi Antonelli. The Italian teenager is over 2 decades younger than Hamilton, but the veteran is no stranger to taking on those less than half his age. Regardless of who replaces the British driver, Hamilton says that he does not care who he beats. "Not particularly," he replied when asked by Esquire whether he took particular pleasure in beating the younger drivers. "I'm super competitive naturally. I don't care who it is. I just want to win. When I won the other day at the British Grand Prix, I didn't think anything about anybody else. I just thought about my team. I thought about people that were with me. People that have sacrificed their time away from their families. People who were giving that extra bit of time in their day when they could have left early to go home and see the kids. And they've given that extra time to build these parts that got us that result. That's who I think about." Hamilton will be hoping he has a couple more opportunities to think about those people when he crosses the line in his remaining races at Mercedes, and then in his maiden year in red at Ferrari. The second story is Hamilton has benefited more from W15 F1 car gains. The Mercedes Formula One team thinks that Lewis Hamilton has benefited more than teammate George Russell from the gains made with the W15. The German manufacturer had a tough start to the season, with its 2020-2024 F1 Challenger proving to be inconsistent and having a narrow performance window. However, as the squad has unlocked the secrets of its potential, the car has moved towards the front of the grid and has now won 3 of the last 4 races. That step forward has also coincided with Hamilton being able to get more out of it, having struggled against Russell in the early stages of the campaign. Mercedes trackside engineering director Andrew Shovlin thinks that Hamilton's form now is so much better because he was especially struggling with the car's characteristics in its infancy. "I think early on, perhaps Lewis was finding the car more difficult to deal with," explained Shovlin. "One of the areas that we've improved with the car is being able to land with a setup in first practice that is a good foundation to start building on performance and then fine-tuning it. That helps your weekend enormously. In the early part of the year, we were making relatively small changes, and suddenly the whole car balance left us, and we were struggling. And yeah, it's probably fair to say that Lewis was finding it more difficult to set up in the earlier races than George. Mercedes and Hamilton know that the current generation of ground effect cars and tires are not ideal for the 7-time champion's driving style, as he cannot exploit his full potential in braking. However, as Mercedes has unlocked more speed from the car, Shovlin says that both drivers are now demanding similar things from it. There's a certain driving style that suits these tires, he said. You tend to find that the two drivers are never that far apart on setup now. So once the car's in a good window, the same thing's working pretty well for both of them. And between sessions, they're studying what the other one's doing to try to find where the gains are. But through the year, the two of them have been working together. Early on, neither of them wanted to be finishing where we were, and they were able to help each other through trying different experiments with setup and driving style. Overall, you progress as a team, and that's how a team with two drivers works. Shovlin admitted that early races were a particular challenge for everyone because the team felt so close to the front, but was still not finishing in the positions it wanted. In the first bit of the year, a lot of it was quite frustrating because we were finishing 5th, 6th, 7th, and often you'd see that with just another 10th of performance, we'd have been 3 places up the grid, he added. So we've made progress. That's why we're able to now finish on the podiums. The third story is Wolff had to change approach as he believed team in danger of complete collapse. When Toto Wolff first joined Mercedes' Formula One team in 2013, the German team were on the rise, with first winning Grand Prix that season, and then in 2014, they were already on top of F1's world, mastering the regulation change. However, once another regulation change happened in 2022, Mercedes were left behind, something that was hard for the Austrian. From 2014 until the 2021, Mercedes have won the Constructors' Championship every season. That changed in 2022, when the current regulations came into effect. When I joined the team, I led it in a certain way. I was very emotional and relentless. I kept our entire system under constant pressure. I wanted to shake up the organization, and my only goal was to make us a world championship-winning team. Toto Wolff began to explain his first phase as Mercedes team principal. In 2022, the German team were no longer contenders and only won a single race at Interlagos that season. The whole team was in danger of collapsing under pressure. I changed that. I became more pragmatic, analyzed things more deeply, and gave people a chance instead of being too brutal and direct. I also understood that impatience does not make the car faster. After Mercedes went winless in 2023, now in 2024, they have won 3 Grand Prix. George Russell was victorious in Austria, while Lewis Hamilton earned his 104th and 105th career victory at Silverstone and Spa-Francorchamps, respectively. Mercedes says it still needs time to fully get on top of the tire temperature issues that are influencing its performance in Formula One. The German manufacturer has noted a trend this year where its W15 car shines in cooler conditions, but if temperatures go up, it struggles more compared to the opposition. The team suspects that this is a consequence of the car putting more heat into its rear tires, which is good for getting them in the right operating window in the cold, but has consequences if they fall out the other end and get too hot on sunny days. Mercedes thinks finding a solution to the issue is not straightforward, and it could take several development steps before the outfit gets itself to a place it is happy with. Trackside engineering director Andrew Shovlin said, "I think at tracks like Silverstone we had a very stable rear end. In Austria and Budapest we lacked stability. That's all down to the fact that we seem to be putting more temperature in the tires than the others."